A legend forged in silver resumes in red.
The checkered flag as the winner of the Spanish Grand Prix for Lewis Hamilton, who strengthens his grip then at the top.
With the conclusion of the 2026 Spanish Grand Prix, we now have a Sir Lewis Hamilton's first win with Ferrari, setting another record for himself, 106 career wins in Formula One. And not only was this massive for Lewis Hamilton, but for the championship in 2026 with Kimi Antonelli, the current championship leader, DNFing. And not to mention Hamilton's teammate Leclerc also did not finish the race in the span of about 2 seconds. With that, Lewis Hamilton has put himself in position to really have a shot here at the 2026 championship. And it couldn't be any more awesome to see. Words that you want to use to describe that. So with that said, let's get into some driver ratings.
To start off first, we'll talk about Antonelli, who, of course, did not finish the race due to an electrical shutdown reported by Mercedes. Overall, for Antonelli today, or should I say during the race, he was honestly faster than George Russell. And given the opportunity to finish the race, he would have actually beaten Russell on track, which was kind of surprising going out of qualifying. Russell was obviously about, 3.5 tenths faster than Antonelli during qualifying, but of course during the race Antonelli seemed to figure it out. He claimed during qualifying that he was pushing it too hard, overdriving the car, and that could have easily led to that gap that we saw during qualifying. During the race was able to get in a rhythm, get his pace up, and he was really on Russell there from about like lap 25 and onwards till the end to the end of the race, staying within about 2 seconds throughout most of it. And obviously he got the move done on Russell. And yeah, if it wasn't for this car shutting down, he would have finished second, which is kind of crazy to think about after qualifying, how much faster he was than Russell, really. I feel like, if anything, Russell was holding him up. So for Antonelli, without, of course, mechanical issues, he finishes second. So for me, it's going to be a 9 out of 10 for Kimi. Pretty much the best he could have done, especially with how the safety car or virtual safety car played out. For the second driver for Mercedes, we have George Russell, who obviously finished second in the Spanish Grand Prix. And honestly, it was about to be third place if it wasn't for his teammate DNFing. You could argue Russell also was in position to win for most of the weekend, putting it on pole, looking like the old Russell from, just even last season per se, even Australia. He seemed to be in the groove. This was probably his best weekend since Canada. Obviously, Canada, he had the Mercedes failure, just like Antonelli, his teammate. And I've been seeing a lot of people online saying that they're disappointed with Russell's performance. And honestly, it did almost seem like he gave up once Antonelli passed him. But still, I would say he had a pretty solid weekend. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit demoralizing knowing Antonelli would have finished ahead of him. But, still comes home with second, put it on pole. For me, I'm going to have to give George Russell an 8 out of 10. This was one of his better weekends of the season, and it's a good bounce back. Now moving over to Ferrari, starting off first with Charles Leclerc. For Leclerc, honestly, before the incident in Q3, it was looking like it was going to be a good weekend for him. I know some people thought maybe he could challenge for pole. Maybe he was going to be up there with Russell. And honestly, where Hamilton ended up in qualifying, you could have said maybe Leclerc will be up there too. But obviously the moment in qualifying, that now makes it basically this is 3 weeks in a row of Leclerc stinkers. And obviously during the race, he had a hydraulics failure, so he would have not finished anyways, but it wasn't like he was having a good race anyways. Leclerc obviously just not doing the Charles Leclerc that we know and love, as of recently. And honestly, Hamilton's been giving him the business, but yeah, for this weekend, little disappointing and underwhelming, especially crashing due to driver error there in qualifying. So for me, for Leclerc, it's going to have to be a 5 out of 10. Just not a good weekend overall. And was, in the race, obviously miles off of Hamilton due to starting so far back. Speaking of Sir Lewis Hamilton, what a weekend by Lewis Hamilton, taking victory, qualifying second, almost was on pole for Spain. And, honestly, just a really complete weekend here. The last couple of weeks, Lewis Hamilton has been looking absolutely amazing. And it's great. It's great for Formula One seeing this right now. I couldn't be more happy for Lewis Hamilton. Him winning a Ferrari, the scenes were absolutely crazy. And it was an absolutely incredible weekend. He, obviously brings home the win, wins by 20 plus seconds. He was really starting to add it on there at the end with the fresher tires. Absolutely dream weekend. And he had some nice moves during the race. Give it to him. 10 out of 10, Lewis Hamilton. Moving on now to McLaren, starting off first with Lando Norris. An absolutely incredible weekend here from Norris. I mean, besides, the two Mercedes and Hamilton, he was easily, the only driver up there. I mean, Verstappen was kind of in no man's land, I guess, finishing behind in fourth. But besides, obviously, Mercedes and Hamilton, it was just Norris. And you know what? He was keeping the Mercedes on their toes. He made them have to pit, adjust their strategy a little bit. And yeah, he was miles clear of Piastri. So for Norris, he couldn't really have done more. I'm going to give him a 9.5 out of 10 just because, can't give him the 10 out of 10. That's reserved for Hamilton right now. And honestly, no, but seriously though, it was a pretty faultless weekend from Lando Norris, and it's nice to see him not have any energy problems or anything with the engine. Moving on to his teammate Oscar Piastri. Honestly, I don't have that much to say about Piastri. I mean, he was pretty much, anonymous all weekend, especially during the race. He was nowhere near to Lando on pace. He wasn't close to Leclerc. He really wasn't close to Verstappen. He just kind of was running there in about seventh. And, he would have finished there if it wasn't for the two DNFs. He gets a P5, I guess. But, honestly, he was just really nowhere this weekend in terms of compared to Lando. So for that, for Piastri, I'm just going to give him a 6 out of 10. Just very anonymous and really nowhere all weekend. Moving on to Red Bull now, with Verstappen first off. I mean, kind of similar to Piastri. I mean, didn't really see much of him during the race. I mean, honestly, after the first, 4 laps, did anybody actually see him shown on TV? He was just there, and he did his job, went about it very quietly, was doing very well, was going to finish in 5th ahead of Leclerc, got promoted to 4th with the Antonelli DNF. So honestly, for Verstappen, just pretty solid, pretty clean weekend, and we'll give him a 9 out of 10 for that. I mean, not much more he could have done other than maybe being a little bit more competitive, but I mean, with the pace of the Red Bull, got to be happy with P4. Moving on to Hadjar, obviously had the lap 1 bad start and fell all the way back to 14th behind Sainz. But you know what? After that, he was making good moves. And, honestly, I don't really think he was going to finish anywhere better than where he ended up in P8, which ended up being P6. So for that, take away lap 1, which is something Red Bull struggled with this year. I think, honestly, that's right where he would have been. So we'll demote that a little bit for that. We'll give Hadjar a 7.5 for this weekend. Pretty solid. Could have been a little bit better, but overall, he'll take that P6. Moving on now to Alpine. I gotta say, kind of came out of nowhere there in the race to finish, P9 and P10, which obviously got moved up to P7, P8, called into the penalty. But, for Gasly, I think him and Colapinto were pretty similar this weekend. I'm not really sure one was really that much faster than the other. Obviously, Gasly got ahead in the end with the safety car. So pretty, I mean, P7 for Alpine and P8 for Colapinto. That's pretty impressive considering where they were at after qualifying. So for that, I'll give them an 8 out of 10. Just pretty good race, executed really well. And yeah, great result. Moving on to Colapinto, pretty solid weekend for Colapinto. It was faster than Gasly in qualifying. And, in the race, they obviously swapped positions, but it wasn't like Gasly was, faster by a lot or anything. They were pretty similar. Unfortunately for him, he got that 10-second penalty for not slowing down under yellows, which personally I think was really harsh. But I guess it is a rule, so he's going to have to face the consequences for that. Other than that, I was going to score him an 8 out of 10 too, but just because of that penalty, I'm going to have to give him a 7.5, only because that's, driver error, and that cost them a P8 for P10, but still pretty solid weekend for Colapinto. Next up, we got Racing Bulls. Pretty solid weekend for them. Just behind Alpine in race pace, but in terms of qualifying, they were the best of the rest, especially Lawson. Lawson, another great weekend. He's really been putting together a really good season so far. Definitely going down as one of the best drivers of the season too. So he's obviously doing his stuff, and unfortunately, he would have finished 11th without the DNFs, but P9 promoted to P8 again with the Colapinto penalty. So for Lawson, I mean, not really much better he could have done. Maybe stayed ahead of the Alpines, but still really solid weekend. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. On to his teammate Lindblad. Honestly, he stayed out a lot longer than everybody else in that first stint, if you paid attention. And I think that's honestly what cost him here. I think he had good pace this weekend. Do I think he would have beaten Lawson? I don't know. But at the end of the day, he was able to rebound up to P10, and honestly, he was fast enough to stay within 10 seconds of call up until he got promoted to P9. So, pace was there, just, questionable strategy by Racing Bulls, but still very solid weekend for Lindblad. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 though, just because he was a bit behind Lawson this weekend. Man, oh man, Haas, man, what has happened these last couple of races? Their pace has gone absolutely nowhere. And I would argue they might be behind Williams at this point. It's close. They're fighting for not a good position here in terms of where they're at in performance. And it's just been really disappointing. Behrman, I guess he was better than Ocon this weekend, and he would have finished 11th if it wasn't for him DNFing right when Antonelli and Leclerc DNF. So honestly, you got to say pretty decent restint there for Behrman, but Haas in general are slow, so it makes his performance not as memorable. It's going to be a 7 out of 10. Another weekend of Ocon kind of really just being nowhere. I mean, being by Behrman in qualifying. Obviously, he got him in Monaco, but not this time. He made contact with Bortoleto during the race, which wasn't shown, which honestly costed Gabby a lot of time. He was suffering throughout the rest of the race with that. And yeah, I mean, was going to finish behind Behrman, wasn't really on the pace of him this weekend at all. Another disappointing weekend for Esteban. It's going to be a 6. So hopefully he can step it up though. Moving on to Williams, same as Haas, another very disappointing weekend here for Williams. Really nowhere all week, and really just, I guess ahead of the Cadillacs for the most part. Sainz actually had not that bad of a race. He had a really good start, and then from there on else, he was just kind of holding on. Pretty disappointing. He was very upset, and his post-race just sad. They want to get back and, Williams, hopefully they got some big upgrades coming because they need to turn their season around quickly. For Carlos, I'm going to give him a 7.5 just because he did really good at the start there, and, not really much else he could have done. Moving on to Albon, there was a meme during the middle of the race that was like Albon's subplot for Spain 2026, and it was pretty funny. Obviously, he had his little T thing came loose on top of his car, which cost him the pit, and then he also came back out onto the track, and he was like 8 laps down, which was pretty crazy. They turned it into a test session, but he was behind Carlos all weekend. Wasn't really close to him in qualifying. So yeah, we'll give him a 7 out of 10 for Albon. Just anonymous, kind of like Piastri in a way to his teammate. Moving on that Audi, first off, Hülkenberg. I mean, you can't even make it up. Gotta be having one of the most unlucky seasons. I mean, it's just classic Nico Hülkenberg luck, but still, that was just insane what happened to him with Lawson running wide. I fully believe Hülkenberg would have scored points this weekend, so for that to happen to him, it's really unfortunate. But he was having a great weekend besides that, so for that, I'm gonna give him an 8 out of 10. It's just not his fault that he had a DNF, and he should have scored points this weekend for Audi. On the Bortoleto had a terrible start, similar to Hadjar. He was down to like 18th, I think, after lap 1. And then, while making his way up through the field, him and Ocon had contact, and he had body damage for the rest of the race, which carried on and followed him. So fortunately for Gabby, just kind of was there this weekend. Audi hopefully can step up the performance, as they've shown good promise in practice, but haven't been able to put it together in the race due to usually unlucky stuff, not in their own fault. So yeah, for Bortoleto, I'm going to give him a 7 just because there was factors that really wasn't his fault that caused what could have been a promising weekend to be more mediocre. Now on the Aston Martin and Cadillac for these two, not much really to say about the drivers, but we'll just give quick ratings. I mean, Alonso got out-qualified by Stroll for the first time in 40 races. Not what we wanted to see from Alonso. It's really unfortunate what's going on with Aston Martin right now. And it was rumored that he might go to Alpine, which I doubt, but might be one of the final times we see Fernando, if not the final time we see him in Barcelona. So that's unfortunate for the guy like that. But hey, he helped Hamilton win the race in a way. So kudos to him. But yeah, Aston Martin just nowhere. He got out-qualified by Stroll. I'm going to give him a 6.5. On the Stroll, he out-qualified Alonso, but had to retire due to gearbox problems, I'm pretty sure, pretty early on in the race. So really not much else to say. I mean, since he outqualified Alonso 7 out of 10, but yeah, I mean, just really nothing else to really comment about for Aston Martin and Stroll this weekend. For Cadillac, I'm just going to do them together. They were there this weekend. I guess they were better than Aston Martin, so they got that going for them. Bottas, we'll give him a 6.5. He got outqualified by 0.2, but he had to retire, similar to Stroll, really early on due to the pressure gearbox problems. And then Perez, we'll give him a 7 out of 10. He outqualified his teammate, and, you know, he was just kind of there this weekend. I think he finished last out of all the people that finished besides Albon, who was doing a test session. So, yeah, that's that for Cadillac. For my best driver of the weekend, it's obviously going to go to Lewis Hamilton. Great performance. Honorable mentions, I guess there would be probably 2 in my opinion. I'd say probably Lando Norris, and then maybe if you want to say Verstappen or Antonelli. Those 2 were really good this weekend, but no, it's obviously got to go to Lewis Hamilton. And then for my L driver, loser of the weekend, that sounds kind of harsh, but it's true. It's got to be Leclerc. Wasn't there with Hamilton this weekend, race pace wise, and obviously the crash, and doesn't even finish the race. And now his teammates, the second best, not even the second best. He's the best challenge right now for Antonelli for the championship, and he's down there closer to Pierre Gasly in the championship than he is to Antonelli or his teammate. He's closer to Gasly than he is to Hamilton in the championship. So yeah. So with that said, this is going to do it for my 2026 Spanish Grand Prix driver ratings. Thank you for tuning in. If you made it to this point, really appreciate it. Leave a comment down below of what you think about the ratings. Who did I rate too high? Who did I rate too low? Even what were your thoughts on the race this weekend? I honestly liked the race. I'm going to give the race, it was a pretty good race. We'll give it like a 7 out of 10 for the race. Pretty solid, above average in my opinion. It was nice to see Lewis Hamilton back on the top step in the Ferrari. And yeah, I'm going to maybe make a video later this week on could Hamilton possibly challenge for the championship. So yeah, thank you guys for watching and tuning in. Hope you guys like this video, and I will catch you guys in the next one.